It's 3 o'clock in the Suriston megalopolis on this Tuesday, September 10th, 2097. I'm Lana Zhang, and here's what's making news this hour.
I'm Adam Marlborough, and for the first time in my career, WRAT has activated the Emergency Alert Beacon, which temporarily overrides all personal settings and wakes all embedded AM receivers within our broadcast area. If you're just joining us, welcome to the fight. It seems we are truly on the spot for an historic day in Suriston, many times over. Even if you've been closeted away and haven't activated your internal AM receiver all day, you can't have missed all of what's happening to our megalopolis today. Suriston is under siege, from its own populace in the downtown, from terrorists in Suriston South, and most of all from the weather, as Zulu 11 roars full force up the coast towards us. In many ways, this is a fight for our city's survival. We ask you to please do your part by seeking safe, weatherproof shelter and taking with you food and water sufficient for your own needs over the next 2 to 3 days. Please be accommodating to your fellow citizens as we all work together to bring Suriston through this crisis as undamaged as possible.
And I'm Helen Burgess. We have a direct call from Chief of Police Andrea Ogilvie, who, in the absence of our mayor, has assumed temporary control of the city's administration.
To all in the Suriston area, please seek the nearest weatherproof shelter immediately. Minimal food and water will be supplied in most shelters, so go prepared for a stay of several days. All subway systems have been shut down and retasked to emergency shelter service. If your building has its own shelter, please make use of it and leave space in the public shelters for those who have no other option. Suriston is now effectively under martial law until the weather crisis is over. Police have been ordered to immobilize and relocate any person found on the street after 4 p.m. this afternoon. The airspace above Suriston is to be cleared forthwith. All aircraft should land via the nearest street interchange, and passengers seek shelter. No exceptions will be made. Aircraft still in the air after the 4 p.m. curfew will be shot from the sky. The hard deck at 400 meters remains active, but this cannot be ensured once the full force of Zulu 11 hits the city. Once again, seek shelter now. By order Andrea Ogilvie, Acting Mayor and SSO Chief, Suriston Megalopolis.
This live emergency broadcast has been direct streamed from Suriston City Hall, where Acting Mayor Ogilvie has taken up her command post within the City Hall weather bunker.
And now that you've heard the bad news locally, we can tell you of a frightening and fascinating new development on the weather front, brought to our attention only moments ago by Gertrude in our weather office. Gertrude?
This is WRAT meteorologist Gertrude Schrager. We have as yet unconfirmed reports of a gigantic storm of a size and scale with Zulu 11 now threatening the coast of Australia. Just as we assign names to our biggest storms in the northern Atlantic, so too in the Pacific. Tradition here is for the largest hurricanes to carry the Zulu designation after the destructive and massive event of 2038. Zulu 11 is only the 11th to be on a scale deserving of the name. In the Pacific and Indian Oceans, there have been numerous very large storms with different naming conventions, but the most common adopted for extreme typhoons or hurricanes is Tip. The original typhoon Tip struck in the 1920s and boasted sustained winds of 310 kilometers an hour and a 2,170 kilometer diameter. The present storm, now being verified, Tip 23, is logging in at this point with almost identical statistics to Zulu 11. Nearly 3,000 kilometers in radius, winds exceeding 300 kilometers an hour. And it is diametrically opposite to Zulu 11 on the planet's surface. As if to balance each other, these two unprecedented storms seem on the verge of wiping out most of the unprotected towns, villages, and cities across both Australia and North America simultaneously. A strange and frightening symmetry which our Weather Bureau is struggling to understand. One other thing I want Suiston citizens to keep in mind. Zulu 11 is not just about winds. We will be looking at upwards of 100 millimeters of rain per hour, sustained possibly over 2 to 3 days. Windproofing will not be enough. Expect the Suiston River to rise and overflow its banks within 24 hours. After that point, most of the city will be quite literally underwater. For the sake of Suiston residents, I certainly hope that city work crews have been doing their jobs and keeping the drainage systems fully functional in all subways.
Thank you, Gertrude. We now head back into the skies above Suiston for an update from Rick.
Well, Helen, I've been flying the X-37 north to south, and I hate to say this, but our X-21 problem was only the first. At every interchange, the automatics have failed. Not sure if it's a power issue or winds playing havoc with the beacons and relays, but hovers are desperately trying to get to the ground, especially since that most recent message from City Hall. I can't imagine how all these hovers are going to get to the ground by 4 o'clock. But I guess the winds will take care of it for us if we don't all get down soon.
Rick, are you still able to maneuver on the services level?
It's a fight, I'll say that. And since most of the interchanges are completely jammed, I'm not sure how I'll get down when I have to. Most likely we'll have to fly out of the city area first, and work my way back at street level. That's what most people still able to maneuver their vehicles are doing, flying away so they can come back below the hard buffer.
And what if the hard deck fails, Rick, and there's nothing to keep those hovers from dropping to the streets?
Then I'm afraid we're in for some even heavier rain in Suiston than already predicted, Helen. Heavy metal rain.
But people would get down. Clear the skies.
People would get down, but how many would be able to actually land is another question. My guess is less than 10%. The rest would not be able to react in time in an unfamiliar and unexpected approach. I hope it doesn't come to that.
And I'd suggest you begin your own trip back, Rick. There's not a lot more you can do up there now.
On my way.
Oliver Zhang and John Horton have some less distressing news for us from the world of sports. Oliver?
Well, Lana, less distressing for Suiston, perhaps, but not for the Canton Pyros. John Horton is witnessing the final moments of the live-fire match at Underworld Heap, in which the Tail Thrashers have annihilated the Pyros, playing as if Zulu 11 were powering their plays. John?
Only too true, Oliver. The score stands at 97 to 18, which, if the Thrashers can break 100 in the next minute without losing another point, will set 2 live-fire records, one for the most lopsided victory ever recorded, and the other for shortest 100-frag match. A truly astounding achievement if they... And they have just done it, Oliver. The Thrashers have put the final nail in the Pyros coffin with their 10th slam, dropping the entire Pyro squad in 3 near-simultaneous ambushes that pushes them above the 100-frag mark, sending Canton's live-fire squad home with their virtual tails between their legs. And I think I can hear Banshee's victory shriek rising above that of the crowd. She will be a very happy athlete this afternoon.
Thank you, John. So, setting 2 new records on this bizarre day in Suiston history, the Suiston Tail Thrashers demolished the Canton Pyros 102 to 18 in their inaugural match at the Underworld Heap. John, you'd better follow the team to shelter right away. There's sure to be madness as those 200,000 elated fans try to head home and find they can't.
I am on it, Oliver. Heading to the team dressing room now. Best privilege. I will be most interested to hear what Banshee and Triage have to say.
All right, John. We look forward to that. Back to you, Lana.
Thanks, Oliver. In keeping with the excitement and enthusiasm at the Underworld Heap, Archetype has a dramatic new release this week, which seems to draw on the tension of today. Here is Resonant by Archetype. We are patching through a call from Daniela Gresham at South Susan Supermall. Daniela, what's your status down there?
Remember the song All Shook Up?
I imagine you mean that quite literally.
Like I've been in a tumble dryer and spat out halfway through the cycle. But no broken bones, only bruises on almost every part of my body.
Daniela, it's Adam. You fell from how far up on that Ferris wheel?
I'd say about 20 meters, Adam. But you don't climb a structure like that without precautions. At least I don't. Years in the climbing gym, you know?
The police said something about you dangling up there.
Never go anywhere without my belt on, Adam. 5 meters of PCA mountaineering rope. Centimeter diameter, weighs about half a kilo. Training becomes habit, you do it long enough. Tied myself off up there. I guess I dodged fast enough to avoid the main shot, but the graze stunned me and I fell. Must have really whacked my head when I swung down, but I didn't actually fall more than about 1.5 meters.
Daniela, Helen, I'm beginning to think we should all take lessons in survival from you and your fellow reporters. Climbing, breaking and entering, hand-to-hand tactics, underwater swimming. I guess you need to be ready to do any or all of those out there. Field reporting is a dangerous job. Never more than today.
No argument on that, Helen. Although, how I'd be at the hand-to-hand, not so great. I know that has to be Anne. What I learned of it, I got from her.
So, Daniela, where are you now? I can hear that you're still in the amusement park somewhere.
I tracked northwest to avoid the area I'd last seen the kidnappers. So, just at the edge of the amusement park, bordering the very end of the wave pool. I'm right in the center of the kiddie rides. hefted it up onto the roof of a little dino roller coaster.
You still have your rope?
Only about 3 meters to the ground, Adam. My rope is still attached, though.
So, what can you see of the kidnappers' activities from where you are?
To be honest, not much. By the time I got away from the police and found this spot, they'd had lots of opportunity to scatter. And that's what they've done. I can see 4 of the lifeguard skimmers beached on different edges of the lake. West, northwest, north, and northeast. No sign of any people. The lake's surrounded with a bank of trees and bushes to give it a natural feel. They could be anywhere in there. Or they could be gone altogether.
Do you think that's likely? The weather's not very forgiving out there, Daniela.
I know, although it's hard to tell from in here. But they could flee into the storm, and it'd be almost impossible to follow them. If the idea is to whisk the mayor off somewhere and go into hiding, that would be what I'd do. Vanish into the storm.
You could be right, Daniela. For now, though, I think you should stay put and keep your eyes open, just in case they've delayed departure or are still on site. See if you can recuperate a little. And be careful.
That was the plan. I'll hold out here for a while and let you know if I spot anything.
And Daniela, try to steer clear of the police. You're not in their good books.
I'm on it.
Tired of average everyday vision? Enhance your view of the world with Eagle Eye, the only viable optically grafted cyber eye that carries a lifetime warranty and guarantees perfect super zoom vision in the visible infrared and ultraviolet ranges, including perfect night sight. See what you've been missing. Spotlight Eagle Eyes. Transform your life today.
Ann Kelso has been at the core of the downtown riot since it began over 2 hours ago. She's on the line now with new insight into the scene on the ground as the first touch of Zulu 11 begins to affect Sewerston's city core.
Helen, the downtown buildings are channeling these winds, so it's like trying to move in a wind tunnel. For the moment, the airflow's intermittent, coming in terrific gusts. I imagine once the storm arrives in earnest, these winds will be sustained, and outdoor movement impossible.
Where are you now, Anne?
The office car I was in began to fill with refugees from the street. Some innocent, but most set on taking advantage of the opportunity, vandalizing and taking what they could find. I had to fight my way out on the ground floor, and I admit the damaged right arm is a bit of a handicap. Still, I'm here, near Mannion and Carver, moving towards the waterfront. I figure with the storm will come waves, and most people will be heading the other way. And thanks to a nice young man sporting a mushroom cloud tattoo in his mostly bare chest, I'm also armed.
Apostles? Are you seeing many of them?
Strangely, yes. This is just the kind of bizarre combination of events that will bring out the apostles of the apocalypse. They'll claim the storm is here because of man's damage to the planet's atmosphere, and the riot represents a typical manifestation of man's inherent destructive nature. A perfect storm, if you will. In fact, after my little encounter with our young friend, I spotted a pair of these model citizens moving east along Carver, and I'm following discreetly.
You think the apostles have something to do with what's happening?
It wouldn't surprise me if they did. Only about 4 blocks from the water now, and the crowds are thinning. Most people have already ducked into cover in one building or another, and I've seen a mad rush to get into the subways. But these apostles clearly have a destination in mind, and it looks like they have company.
Anne?
3 more apostles just pulled out of a jeweler's and joined their gangmates. This could turn into a regular party. Too bad the military have pulled back to the boundary. They'd like to see this little group hanging about in the open.
Be careful, Anne. The apostles have, well, a nasty reputation for recklessness. They believe all that stuff about God abandoning the world until man finishes what he's begun. If they see you...
I'll be careful. They've got to go to ground sometime soon, and I'd like to see where. I'll report back when I have more. AKA out.